Hello everyone, this is Bjorn from Great Games for Your Time and welcome back to my channel. It's time to take a look back at the previous year, and so therefore let's consider together year number 2 in review. I might summarize year number 2 as the out of bounds year. It seemed like almost every other game that I was featuring was in fact not a great game before your time, but it was a modern day released game. From the previous years, not necessarily even 2022, I had leftover footage from Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, as well as Let's Go Pikachu, and finally Pokemon Legends Arceus. So I thought I would cover those in various quick, snappy highlights videos. And then honestly, I was super excited to play Advance Wars for Switch, but that gave me perfect opportunity to revisit the original Advance Wars and also Advance Wars 2. Overall, I really enjoyed how the Advanced Wars series came out. I cannot think of any other way one could present games like that, tactical strategy games. Maybe one could only focus on the story, but I chose to include the gameplay as well, voiced over with some general comments about the strategy for that map. Then it was time to move on to another Nintendo classic, the original Metroid. As I stated many times, Metroid is one of my favorite franchises of all time. It just has this incredibly beautiful blend of sci-fi and action and interesting, unique lore. And honestly, the quality of Metroid games is sometimes hard to even find in the world of Hollywood movies that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. Not bashing every movie Hollywood pumps out, but I'm just saying. If we look back to the very beginning of my YouTube channel, something of which I highly recommend you do not do, it was very embarrassing because the overall quality of the videos were very bad. Eventually I'll phase all of these out, but the first revisited game that I redid was Super Mario Bros. Of course, your original Nintendo classic. One of the most recognized characters on planet Earth, besides possibly Mickey Mouse, is of course Mario. But one thing I did appreciate about revisiting this game is, of course, not only was the overall quality of virtually everything better, but also it was more tightly edited. And then perhaps the most surprising game that you would never expect to see on my channel, or indeed anyone else's in the entire world, is The Adventures of Dino Ricky. I had to do this series just as an inside joke with my nieces and nephews, and honestly I would recommend that you check out those short videos as well. It may not be a great game, but it is definitely a game, and it was definitely before your time. I jumped over into Game Boy Land and played through Super Mario Land 1, Super Mario Land 2, and then finally Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land. One thing I appreciated about all of those series is that the individual videos were reasonably bite-sized in length. I often debate with myself if I'm presenting a platformer game, should I just do a highlights video like I have adopted with many of my other series? The thing is, with these old games, a lot of times the story is so bare bones, there's not a lot of dialogue that I can make plays off of or make commentary over, and so therefore it literally is 100% just my footage of playing it. And then of course we get to Wario Land, where I go off on this almost hour-long rant about various environmental groups, which honestly the raw video is hilarious, but I toned it significantly down for the YouTube cut, and then before I actually uploaded that video I toned it down a lot more. Because to be blunt, I don't need any sarcastic statements. All I needed to do is include the facts, and no matter who you are, you can't argue with it. Then of course we get to yet another Pokemon game, Pokemon Scarlet. This game took me a lot of time to create the YouTube series out of, and it was absolutely necessary for me to only do a very strict highlights reel of the entire playthrough. And speaking of games that you probably absolutely never expected to appear on a channel such as this, I've revisited the Nintendo and played the ultra popular game, Where's Waldo? In fact, I'm sure so many people play the original Nintendo Where's Waldo game that the only reason there's never been a fan convention of it is just everyone knows that there's no venue big enough to hold all of the people that would attend. But just the same, those videos are quite short as well, so I'd honestly recommend go check it out. And then it was time for me to finally, once and for all, get to my favorite Zelda game of all time, Zelda Majora's Mask. Not only do I really love this game, but unfortunately when I recorded and ultimately created the YouTube series for Zelda Ocarina of Time, I noticed that I talked like non-stop solid. And a lot of the YouTube cut videos, the story presentation or narrative that I was trying to craft from the raw videos had my voice talking all the crap over the place. And I would say this definitely contributed to the fact that when I was playing Zelda Majora's Mask, I had this internal voice in my head telling myself to just shut up. And so I'm very noticeably quiet through almost this entire series. Now, even if you thought that the series was boring because there was no sarcastic commentary or dialogue, I have to apologize, but at the same time, Zelda Majora's Mask, I would say a large percentage of it relies on its atmosphere and its ambience. So without disturbing that environment, I think that the series overall went and turned out pretty good. I thought Zelda Majora's Mask was going to be the final game that I did on the year. However, Super Mario RPG, the Switch remake, was released, and I was so excited to play it, I thought to myself, hey, I need to record myself playing this. Now it is true, I did play other brand new Switch games in 2023 that I did not record myself playing, such as Metroid Prime Remake and also Metroid Dread, but I did want to create a series based off of my reactions from playing the Switch remake of one of my favorite Super Nintendo games of all time. And once again, we have plenty of things to complain about, but overall, that game is great. And overall, the series was just a very short, snappy highlight reel.